My name is Margaret, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm an 82-year-old retired nurse, living a quiet life in a small town in Kansas. My days are filled with reading novels, gardening, and occasionally spending time with my beloved grandkids. But there are times when silence can be the loudest thing in the world. The day before my son, Jason, was supposed to marry the woman he had been with for almost 2 years, I found myself standing in my living room, holding a letter in my hands that shattered everything I thought I knew. I had been sitting at the kitchen table, sipping my usual cup of tea when the letter had arrived. Addressed to me, in an envelope with elegant handwriting. I had thought little of it at first, assuming it was just another piece of junk mail. But when I tore open the seal, my heart sank. It was a confession from Emily, Jason's fiancée. The letter read, "I owe you the truth, Maggie. I've made a terrible mistake, and I can't keep it from you anymore. Before Jason and I even met, I made a horrible decision that I've been carrying around, and I owe it to you to tell you now. The man I'm about to marry, I've already slept with him. More than once." My hands trembled as I reread the words. The world around me seemed to crumble. How could this be happening? I had raised Jason with love, taught him right from wrong, and had always been so proud of the man he became. And now, the woman he was about to marry had been with my husband. My husband, the man I'd spent over 40 years with. I sat there for what seemed like hours, trying to make sense of it all. The very thought of it filled me with disgust, and yet, a strange sense of guilt washed over me. I felt betrayed not just by Emily but by the man I had shared my life with, the man who was supposed to be my rock. I knew I couldn't sit idly by, even though the wedding was tomorrow. I had raised Jason to be a strong man, and I couldn't let him marry someone who had so little respect for him or for me. But then a thought struck me. What if I still went to the wedding? What if I gave them a gift that they would never forget? It was crazy, I know, but a quiet, determined rage was brewing inside me. I had spent so many years being the wife, the mother, the grandmother, the person who always kept her family together. Maybe it was time to show them just how strong I was. The next morning I woke up early. The sun hadn't even risen yet, but I was already preparing for the wedding. The dress I chose was simple but elegant, something that would remind everyone that I had more grace and dignity than they ever gave me credit for. I didn't care about what anyone thought anymore. All I could think of was the look on Jason's face when he learned what his fiancée had done. The house was quiet as I picked up the gift. It was small, wrapped in silver paper with a red ribbon. Inside I had placed a small photo album, filled with pictures of my husband and I during the good times. Our vacations, our anniversaries, the moments when life felt perfect. But as a final touch, I added a note to Emily. It simply read, "The truth always comes out in the end, sweetheart." With the gift in hand, I drove to the church. I didn't know what to expect when I got there, but I wasn't about to let this day go without making my presence known. As I stood outside watching guests arrive, I couldn't help but wonder how it would feel when Jason found out the truth. Would he even believe it? Would he confront her, or would he marry her, oblivious to the betrayal right under his nose? The ceremony began and I took my seat, my heart heavy but resolute. I could see Jason at the altar, his back straight, a smile on his face. He had no idea. I wanted to scream, to tell him everything. But I kept quiet, watching as Emily walked down the aisle, radiant in her white dress. I couldn't believe it. She was walking toward him, about to pledge her life to him, and yet she had already shared her body with the man who was supposed to be mine. As the vows were being exchanged, I stood up. The room fell silent, eyes turning toward me. I slowly walked to the front, taking the gift I had prepared for them and handing it to Emily. The look on her face when she saw the small album told me everything. She froze, her smile faltering for just a moment before she quickly masked it with a practiced expression. Jason looked at me, confusion in his eyes. "I hope you like it," I said, my voice steady. "A gift for the happy couple." The room was still, the air thick with tension. I turned and left, but as I stepped outside, I couldn't help but wonder if the truth would be enough to tear apart the life they were about to build. The gift was only the beginning. The real fireworks were yet to come. As I drove away, the phone in my hand buzzed. It was a message from Emily. "I'll make you regret this." I couldn't wait to see what she had planned. The drive home was a blur. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was only beginning. I had done it. I had confronted them, at least in my own way. But as the reality of what I had done settled in, a sense of dread started creeping up on me. What would Jason say? What would everyone say? By the time I pulled into my driveway, I felt emotionally drained, as if the whole world had suddenly shifted beneath my feet. I went inside and sat down at my kitchen table, still clutching the note that Emily had sent me. I stared at the words on my phone screen. "I'll make you regret this." Her threat didn't scare me, but it made me angry. No one had ever dared to challenge me like that, especially not someone I had once trusted. I had spent years taking care of my family, loving them with all I had, and now they had turned their backs on me. My mind raced as I thought of Jason. He had always been so kind, so full of potential. I had watched him grow up, become the man he was today. But now, he was choosing someone who had betrayed me, someone who didn't even have the decency to respect our family. And I had no idea how to get through to him, to show him the truth. But there was one thing I was certain of. He would know. I couldn't let Emily or anyone else think they could get away with this. My son needed to see the woman he was about to marry for who she really was. Hours passed, and the quiet of my home began to suffocate me. I could hear the ticking of the clock on the wall, the hum of the refrigerator. Everything was so still. And then, around 6 p.m. I got a call. It was Jason. "Mom, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice shaking slightly. I don't understand what happened today. Why did you do that? Why did you give her that gift? What was all that about?" I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment I had been dreading and waiting for. But I couldn't back down now. I had already crossed a line, and it was time for the truth to come out. "Jason," I said softly, my voice surprisingly steady. "I didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted you to see what she's really like. What she's been doing behind your back." There was silence on the other end. I could feel the tension building, the uncertainty in his hesitation. "Mom, what are you talking about? Emily is. She's everything I've ever wanted. She's kind, she's loving. You have to trust me on this." I felt my stomach twist. How could he be so blind? "Jason," I said again, my voice stronger now. "Before she became your fiancé, she and your father. I stopped, unable to finish the sentence. The words felt too heavy in my mouth, but I couldn't hold back any longer. I took a deep breath and told him everything. The letter Emily had sent, the betrayal that had rocked me to my core. I told him about their affair, how Emily had come into my home, and how I had found out about everything. For a long moment there was silence. I could almost hear him processing the words, the shock of the truth settling in. "Mom, I can't believe this," Jason finally said. His voice barely above a whisper. "Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure about this?" I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Yes, Jason. I'm sure. I don't want to hurt you, but you need to know the truth." I could hear the sound of him breathing, his shock palpable. I'll talk to her," he finally said, his voice shaky. "But I don't know what to do. I love her, Mom. I don't want to lose her." "I know you love her," I said quietly. "But love isn't supposed to feel like this. Love is built on trust." And she broke that. There was another long pause before Jason finally spoke. "Thanks, Mom. I'll figure this out." And just like that, the call ended. I sat there in silence, the weight of the conversation settling in my bones. My son had heard me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. I knew Emily wouldn't go down without a fight. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, this time a message from an unknown number. I opened it quickly. The message read, "I know what you did. Stay out of our lives, or things will get worse." The text was from Emily. The smile she had worn at the wedding now seemed like a distant memory. She wasn't going to let this go. She had already made it clear. She was going to do everything in her power to destroy me. I wasn't sure what was going to happen next, but one thing was for sure. I was done playing the quiet, supportive mother. The gloves were off. And I wasn't going to let her win. Just as I started to make a plan, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Who could it be now? I stared at the doorbell for a long moment, the sound still ringing in my ears. My heart pounded, and I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. Who could it be? I wasn't expecting any visitors, especially not now, when everything seemed so upside down. I slowly stood up, my feet feeling heavy as I walked toward the door. Every step seemed like an eternity. As I reached for the door handle, I briefly considered just pretending I wasn't home. But then again, who was I fooling? I wasn't going to hide anymore. Not from anyone. When I opened the door, I was taken aback by the sight before me. Standing there, looking uncomfortable and nervous, was Emily. The woman I had trusted to marry my son, who had already betrayed me in the most unforgivable way, was now standing at my doorstep. She didn't look the way she did during the wedding. No, this time she looked different. Her face was pale, and her posture was stiff, like she didn't quite know how to hold herself anymore. "Maggie, we need to talk," she said, her voice softer than I expected. I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe. "Oh, we do we? Because I've been waiting for you to come and explain why you thought it was a good idea to sleep with my husband while I was blissfully unaware. But now that we're here, I'd like to know what your plan is." She looked taken aback by my bluntness, but after a moment, her expression hardened. "It's not what you think, Maggie. Jason doesn't know the whole truth. I came here to tell you everything." I raised an eyebrow. "You think I'm going to listen to you? After everything you've done? I'm not here to justify my actions, but I want you to understand why I did what I did," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "It was never about Jason. It was about your husband. He manipulated me. He made me believe that I was the only one who could make him happy, that he was in love with me. I was vulnerable, Maggie. I was grieving a loss, and he took advantage of that." The words hit me like a slap in the face. How could she try to blame my husband? He had been the one who betrayed me. And now she was trying to turn the tables on me. My hands clenched into fists, and I took a step forward, anger bubbling inside me. "You're telling me you were manipulated?" I asked, my voice low and dangerous. "You honestly expect me to believe that?" She flinched, but then she met my gaze, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Fear, guilt, or maybe even regret. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness, Maggie. I don't think I deserve it. But I need you to understand. It wasn't just my fault." I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. This wasn't the time for a shouting match. As much as I wanted to tear into her, I knew I needed to get more information. "So what is it you came here for, Emily? To try and make me feel sorry for you?" "No," she whispered. "I came here because I'm scared. Jason doesn't know everything. He's still in the dark. I know he's angry, but I think he'll listen to you. You're his mother. Maybe you can make him understand." I stared at her, considering her words carefully. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face, to tell her to go to hell and never come back. But another part knew that Jason needed to know everything. This had gone too far, and it was only a matter of time before the truth came out. "Fine," I said, finally breaking the silence. "I'll talk to him. But if you think for a second that I'm going to forgive you, or that you'll ever have a place in this family again, you're wrong." Her face softened for a brief moment. "I don't expect forgiveness, Maggie. I just want you to make sure Jason knows the truth before he makes the biggest mistake of his life." I nodded, stepping aside to let her in. She walked past me without another word, and I closed the door behind her. I couldn't believe I was letting her into my home. But I had bigger things to worry about. Jason's wedding was still happening, and Emily was right. He didn't know everything. I didn't know how I was going to break this to him, but I had no choice. The wedding had to be stopped. I couldn't let him go through with it, not after what I had learned. We sat down at the kitchen table, the air thick with tension. Emily had no idea what was coming, but I knew I had to do this the right way. "So what exactly do you want me to tell him?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She swallowed hard. "Tell him that it wasn't just about the affair. Tell him about the manipulation. Tell him about how your husband played me, how he made me feel like I was the one who could give him what he needed. Tell him everything." He nodded. I wasn't sure how much of this Jason would believe, but I knew one thing. I was going to make him see the truth, no matter what. Just as Emily finished speaking, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Jason. His message read, "I need to talk to you, Mom. Can you meet me at the park?" My heart skipped a beat when I read Jason's message. He wanted to meet at the park. I had no idea what was going through his mind, but I knew one thing for sure. I had to be there. I had no choice now but to face him. My son, the one I had raised, the one who trusted me, was about to hear the truth. I glanced over at Emily, who had been sitting quietly at the table, waiting for me to make a move. I could see the fear in her eyes. She was desperate now. "Do you think he'll believe you?" she asked, her voice shaky. "I don't know," I replied, my voice steady despite the panic swirling inside me. "But I'm not letting him marry her until he knows everything. No son of mine is going to be blindsided like I was." Emily looked down at the table, her hands folded in her lap. "You don't have to do this, Maggie," she whispered. "You don't have to tell him. Maybe it's too late." I shook my head, feeling a surge of anger rise up. "It's not too late, Emily. You've already done enough damage, and I won't let you ruin my son's life. He deserves the truth, even if it breaks him." She didn't argue. Instead, she looked away, her face pale. I could tell she was afraid, but she had no one to blame but herself. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. "I'll be back in a little while. You stay here. I'll handle this on my own." "Please," she called out softly, her voice pleading. "Don't destroy him." I didn't answer. Couldn't. All I could do was focus on what lay ahead. The truth, no matter how painful, had to be told. The drive to the park felt like an eternity. I kept replaying everything in my mind. What I was going to say to Jason, how he was going to react. Would he be angry? Would he scream at me? Or would he believe me, finally see the woman he was about to marry for who she really was? When I finally pulled into the park parking lot, my stomach twisted. Jason's car was already there, parked near the swings. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. I knew this moment would change everything, but I wasn't sure in what way. As I walked toward him, I saw him standing by the swings, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. He looked so young, so vulnerable. But there was a hardness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He had changed, I could see that. The man standing before me wasn't the boy I had raised. "Jason," I said softly, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to remain calm. He turned around, his face expressionless. "Mom, you wanted to talk." I nodded, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on me. "Yes, Jason. We need to talk. About Emily. About your wedding." His eyes narrowed. "What about it?" "You don't know the full truth," I said, my voice steady now. "I tried to tell you before, but I couldn't. I didn't want to hurt you." "What are you talking about, Mom?" He took a step forward, his tone growing sharper. "You've been acting strange. Why are you bringing this up now? This isn't the time." I swallowed hard. "Jason, Emily has been lying to you. She's been lying to both of us. Before you two even met. She was with your father." His face twisted in confusion. "What? That doesn't make any sense, Mom. Are you serious?" "I wish I wasn't, Jason. I wish I was making this up, but I'm not. I found out about their affair just before your wedding. She's been sleeping with your father, and she's been lying to you about it all along." The shock on his face was immediate. I saw his hands shake as he stepped back, his mind trying to process what I had just said. No, no, you're wrong, he muttered. This doesn't make any sense. She wouldn't do that. Jason, I have proof, I said, my voice cracking slightly. I have a letter from her, a confession. She came to me, begging for forgiveness. She wants to make it right, but you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know who she really is. He shook his head, disbelief written all over his face. I can't believe this. You're telling me that Emily was with Dad. I don't know what to say, Mom. This is too much. I know it's hard to believe, I said softly, taking a step closer. But you have to understand, Jason. I loved your father too, and he betrayed me in the worst way. But I won't let you make the same mistake I did. He was silent for a long time, his eyes searching mine as if looking for some hint that I was lying. But there was no lie. I had lived through the pain of their betrayal, and now he had to face the truth of it. Do you want to see the letter? Yes. Do you want to see the proof? Jason hesitated, his hands clenched at his sides. Finally he nodded. Yes, I need to see it. I need to know if what you're saying is really true. I reached into my purse and handed him the letter that Emily had sent me. He took it reluctantly, his hands shaking as he unfolded the paper. He read through it quickly, his face growing pale with each line. When he finished, he crumpled the paper in his fist and let out a shaky breath. I can't believe it. I don't know what to do. I stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to do anything right now, Jason. But you need to make a choice. You need to decide what's best for you, not for Emily or anyone else. You deserve to be happy, but you can't be happy with a lie. For a moment there was silence. I held my breath, waiting for him to say something. Finally he looked at me. His eyes filled with a mixture of confusion, sadness, and anger. Thanks for telling me, Mom, he said quietly. I need some time to think about all of this. I nodded, knowing this wasn't over. But at least now, Jason knew the truth. The rest was up to him. As Jason turned to walk away, I received another message from Emily. You think this is over? You have no idea what's coming for you. I stood there watching Jason walk away. His shoulders slumped, lost in a sea of thoughts I couldn't even begin to understand. The park, which had seemed so peaceful just an hour ago, now felt like a prison. My son, the man I had raised, was on the brink of a life-altering decision. The weight of it all pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. I knew I had done the right thing by telling him the truth, but that didn't make it any easier. A part of me wanted to call out to him, to tell him everything was going to be okay, that he would get through this. But I couldn't lie to him. I couldn't lie to myself either. This was the truth, raw and ugly, and it had to be faced. As I slowly walked back to my car, my phone buzzed again. I looked at the screen, and once again it was Emily. The message simply read, You think this is over? You have no idea what's coming for you. My stomach tightened. I had expected this. I had known she wouldn't go down quietly. But what was she planning? What could she possibly do to make this situation even worse? I decided not to reply. If she wanted to threaten me, let her. I had dealt with worse in my life. But something told me this wasn't just an empty threat. Emily was dangerous, and I couldn't underestimate her. By the time I arrived home, the house felt eerily quiet. Emily hadn't left, but I wasn't sure what she was doing or what she was planning to do next. I had a feeling I wasn't going to like it. I opened the door, and she was sitting at the kitchen table, staring down at her hands. When she looked up at me, her face was drained of color, and her eyes were wide, as if she had just witnessed something horrifying. Maggie, she stopped, her voice breaking. I don't know what to do. Jason's not answering my calls. He won't even look at me. What if he decides to call off the wedding? What if this ruins everything? I could hear the desperation in her voice. It wasn't just the affair anymore. No, this was about her entire life falling apart. Emily had built her world around Jason, and now everything she had been working toward was crumbling before her eyes. She wasn't just losing him. She was losing the life she had carefully crafted. You should have thought about that before you slept with my husband, I said coldly, my voice shaking with rage. Her eyes flickered with guilt, but then she quickly composed herself. I didn't plan for this to happen. It was a mistake. I know it was a mistake, but I need him. He's the one I want, Maggie. Please, I can't lose him. I stood there for a moment, taking in her words. I had no sympathy for her, none at all. But a part of me understood her desperation. She was like a cornered animal, and cornered animals often lash out. You've already lost him, I said, my voice unwavering. The truth came out, Emily. It's only a matter of time before Jason makes his choice. And you can't manipulate him anymore. You've pushed him too far. She stood up suddenly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. You're wrong. I love him, Maggie. You don't understand. You never did. I was just trying to make him love me back. I took a step forward, my fists clenched. And how's that working out for you? You think you can just destroy everything and still get what you want? Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. I'm not going to lose him. Can't. I'll do whatever it takes. I stared at her, disbelief rising in my chest. Whatever it takes. What was she capable of? I had seen the lengths people were willing to go to when they were desperate, but this was something else. Something darker. I took a deep breath and let the silence stretch between us. She had no idea what she had done, how much damage she had caused, and how much more was about to come. I turned toward the door. You can stay here if you want, but don't think for a second that I'm going to help you. I'll never be on your side again. She didn't say anything else. I could feel her eyes on me as I left the room. But I didn't care anymore. She had made her choices, and now she had to face the consequences. As I sat in my living room trying to collect my thoughts, the phone rang again. I stared at it, dread creeping in. I knew who it was. Had to be Jason. I picked up the phone with a deep breath. Jason. Mom, he said, his voice strained, barely above a whisper. I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know who to trust. I just spoke to Emily. She says it wasn't her fault, that it was Dad who made her believe all this stuff. But I don't know if I can trust her. I don't know if I can trust you either. I closed my eyes for a moment. This was harder than I had imagined. Jason, I'm telling you the truth. Emily's trying to manipulate you. Don't let her. She's not who you think she is. I don't know if I can handle this, Mom, he said, his voice breaking. I don't know what to do. You'll figure it out, Jason, I said quietly. But you have to choose. You have to choose the right thing. Don't let her control you. Don't let anyone control you. He was silent for a long time before finally speaking. I need space. I need time to think. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I understand. Just know that I'm here for you no matter what. You'll get through this. I hope so, he said, his voice barely audible. The call ended, and I stared at the phone, my thoughts racing. The truth had come out, but the battle wasn't over. The real test was still to come. As I set the phone down, I heard a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. But when I opened it, I found a small box wrapped in red ribbon with no name attached. What was it? And who left it? The knock at the door startled me, the sound cutting through the stillness of the house. My heart pounded in my chest as I walked slowly toward the door, not knowing what to expect this time. Emily, Jason, or perhaps someone else trying to make their way into the tangled mess that had become my life. When I opened the door, I was met with an unexpected sight. A small, neatly wrapped box resting on my doorstep. The bright red ribbon glistened in the evening light, but there was no card, no note attached. The only thing I could make out was the weight of it, something solid inside. My curiosity mixed with a rising sense of unease. Who would leave a gift like this at my doorstep? My mind immediately went to Emily, and the dark promise she'd made earlier. Was this her idea of a warning? A final gesture to send me a message? But then again, why leave it anonymously? I bent down to pick up the box, feeling the cool paper against my fingertips. It wasn't large, just small enough to fit in one hand. As I closed the door behind me, I took a deep breath, mentally preparing myself for whatever this could be. Maybe it was nothing, but then again, nothing had felt normal for days. Nothing could be trusted anymore. Sitting down at the kitchen table, I stared at the box. My pulse quickened as I carefully untied the ribbon, taking extra care not to rip the paper. Whatever this was, I knew it wasn't something ordinary. I could feel the tension rising with each moment. Finally, the paper came off, and I was left staring at a simple black velvet box. My hands trembled as I opened it, expecting something sinister, something that would make the hairs on my neck stand on end. But what I found inside wasn't anything I could have imagined. It was a key. A simple, antique key, gleaming in the dim light of my kitchen. There was no explanation, no note, no name. I picked it up, examining it closely. The key looked old, like it belonged to something valuable, something important. But to what? What could this possibly open? And why had it been sent to me? The only thing I could think of was my father's old estate. A mansion he had left to me after his passing. It had always been more of a memory than a home. After he died, I hadn't been able to bring myself to sell it, even though it stood empty and neglected for years. But I had never told anyone about the key to that place. Not even Emily, not even Jason. So how did this key end up on my doorstep? I felt a chill run down my spine as my mind raced. What was going on? And who had sent this? My instincts told me there was more to this than just a strange gift. This was no random gesture. Someone wanted me to find this, to open something. But what? I stood up quickly, the key feeling heavy in my palm. I needed answers. I couldn't just sit here and wait. Emily's threats, Jason's confusion, and now this key. It all pointed to something bigger, something that was just beyond my reach. I decided then and there that I was going to find out exactly what this key unlocked. My heart pounded as I grabbed my coat and hurried out the door. The mansion had been sitting there, abandoned, for years, but something inside me told me that tonight, I would finally uncover its secrets. As I drove to the mansion, the night felt darker than usual. The long, winding road was lit only by my headlights, and the further I went, the more eerie it seemed. The mansion loomed in the distance, its outline barely visible against the starless sky. It was an old, imposing building, once filled with laughter and life, but now standing as a silent reminder of the past. When I arrived, I hesitated for only a moment before walking up the steps and inserting the key into the front door. Fit perfectly. As the door creaked open, I felt an unsettling sense of déjà vu. This was my father's home, but it felt foreign, as if I was trespassing on something that didn't belong to me anymore. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the silence was deafening. The walls seemed to echo with the memories of a time long gone. I took a step forward, unsure of where I was going but knowing that I needed to see this through. I walked through the grand hallway, each step crunching underfoot as dust and debris shifted. My breath caught when I entered the old study, a room I hadn't seen in years. It looked just the way it had when my father was still alive, except the shelves were empty, the books long gone. But then I saw it. A small, hidden compartment beneath the desk, just like the one my father used to show me as a child. He always told me it was for special things, things that only I could understand when I was old enough. I bent down, using the key to unlock the compartment. Inside, there was a thick envelope sealed with wax. I opened it slowly, careful not to tear it, and pulled out a piece of old yellowed paper. It was a letter, written in my father's handwriting. The letter began with a simple line. "Maggie, if you're reading this, then something has gone terribly wrong. I have left behind a secret, one that will change everything." My breath caught in my throat. My father had always been a man of secrets, but this felt like something far deeper than anything I had ever imagined. What was this secret? And how did it involve everything that had been happening in my life recently? The letter continued, but my heart stopped when I read the next line. "Your husband was involved in something far worse than an affair. And now, it's time for you to take back what is rightfully yours. I stood frozen in place, the letter trembling in my hands. My father's words echoed in my mind, repeating over and over again. Your husband was involved in something far worse than an affair. What did he mean? What could be worse than the betrayal I had already uncovered? I felt my heart race as a dark knot twisted in my stomach. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was something far more sinister, something my father had been keeping from me for years. I quickly scanned the rest of the letter, desperate for answers. The words seemed to blur together at first, but then one line caught my eye. The company, Maggie. Your father's company was never just a business. It was a front for something much darker. Your husband was involved in illegal activities, and I had to protect you from it. I couldn't believe what I was reading. The company that my father had built from the ground up, something I had always seen as a symbol of his hard work and integrity, was a cover for something criminal. My mind raced, trying to piece together what this could mean. Illegal activities. Had my husband known about this all along? Had he been part of it? And if so, what was he hiding? I felt a surge of anger rise up inside me. All these years I had trusted him. I had trusted them. But what had I really known about him? What had I really known about the people in my life? My hands shook as I read the letter again, this time with more focus. My father went on to explain how he had kept track of the business dealings, how he had watched as the company's influence grew, and how he had kept me safe from the shadows cast by its power. He mentioned a list of names, people who had been involved, and a detailed account of his attempts to distance me from the company's darker side. But then, in the final paragraph came the bombshell. The time has come for you to take control. Your husband's involvement is deeper than you realize, and he is trying to cover up what happened all those years ago. You need to find the papers, the ones I hid in the safe. Only then will you understand the true extent of his betrayal. The safe. My mind clicked as I recalled the small, nondescript safe in the basement of the mansion. I'd seen it before, but I had never paid much attention to it. My father had always been protective of it, and I had simply assumed it was filled with old documents, nothing of real importance. But now I knew better. The truth was hidden in that safe. The one thing that could explain everything. I had no time to waste. I had to get to the safe. I had to find out what my father had been protecting me from, and what my husband had been involved in. This was no longer just a fight for my son's happiness. It was a fight for my own future, for my own understanding of who my family really was. I hurried down to the basement, the cold air sending a shiver down my spine. The old house seemed to groan as I descended the stairs, as if it too was afraid of what we were about to uncover. When I reached the basement, I immediately moved toward the corner where the safe was hidden behind a heavy curtain. The sight of it made my pulse race. This was it. The moment that would change everything. I crouched down, my fingers trembling as I searched for the combination. My father had been meticulous in everything he did, and I knew he wouldn't have left it to chance. After what felt like an eternity, I found the small, hidden lever and clicked it open. Inside, there was a stack of papers, tied neatly with string. My heart pounded in my chest as I pulled the papers out and began to sift through them. There were legal documents, old contracts, and financial records, nothing I hadn't seen before. But then, buried at the bottom, was a manila envelope, thick and sealed with red wax. I opened it carefully, my hands shaking. The contents were a series of photographs, old and yellowed with age. The first photograph showed my husband, smiling and shaking hands with several men in suits. They all looked important, too important. But what caught my attention was the second photograph. It was a picture of my husband, standing in front of a warehouse. In the background, there was a stack of crates, marked with strange symbols. I didn't recognize them, but something about them made my blood run cold. This was more than just a business deal. This was something covert, something hidden in the shadows. And my husband had been right in the middle of it. The third photograph made my stomach churn. It was a close-up shot of a man, his face obscured by shadows, standing over a table filled with stacks of cash. The man had a look of desperation on his face, and in his hands, he held a document, something my father had clearly tried to keep hidden. I felt the walls of the room closing in as I flipped through the photos. They told a story, one I wasn't ready to hear. My husband wasn't just some businessman. He had been part of something dangerous, something illegal, and I had been blind to it all. The papers, the photographs, they were the proof. The proof that my father had been trying to protect me from the truth. The proof that my husband was involved in things that would ruin him, that would ruin us. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. My breath caught in my throat as I turned around, expecting the worst. It was Emily. She had found me. But why? And what did she want now? "I was hoping I'd find you here," Emily said, her voice cold and filled with something I couldn't quite place. "We need to talk about what you've just uncovered, before it's too late." I felt my heart race as Emily stepped closer, her eyes gleaming with something dark. She had been quiet for so long, waiting in the shadows, but now here she was, standing in front of me. My breath caught in my throat as I quickly shoved the photos and papers back into the envelope, the weight of what I had just uncovered heavy in my hands. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice shaky but determined. I couldn't let her see how much this situation was affecting me. Not now. Not when everything was about to change. Emily didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked into the basement, glancing around as if she was searching for something, or maybe just taking in the atmosphere of the place. When her eyes fell back on me, there was an unsettling calmness to her expression, one that I hadn't seen before. "I knew you were hiding something," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "I knew there was more to this than you were letting on." I clenched my fists at my sides. "You have no idea what you're talking about, Emily. You've already ruined everything, and now you're trying to drag me down with you. I don't care what you think you know. I'm done with you." Her lips curled into a faint smile. "Oh, Maggie," she said, almost mocking me. "You're wrong. This isn't about me. It's about you. You don't know the whole story. None of you do." "What do you mean?" I demanded, my voice rising. "I've seen enough. I've got the proof right here." I gestured to the envelope I was holding tightly in my hands. "You and my husband, what you've done, this is your mess, not mine." Emily stepped closer, her gaze hardening. "You think it's just about the affair? You think that's what's been keeping your family apart all these years?" I froze, confusion flooding my mind. "What are you talking about? What else is there?" She smiled again, this time with a bitter edge. "Your husband wasn't just hiding an affair from you, Maggie. He was hiding something much worse. You think those pictures are the worst of it? Those are just the tip of the iceberg. Your father knew. That's why he kept everything from you. He was trying to protect you. But it's too late now." I couldn't breathe. The words she was saying, the insinuations. It was as if everything I knew was falling apart in front of me. "What do you mean? What was my father trying to protect me from?" Emily's eyes flickered to the envelope I was still clutching. "What you found in there isn't the full story, Maggie. It's just the beginning. Your husband wasn't just involved in illegal business dealings. He was part of something far more dangerous. And so was your father." My mind was spinning. "No, that's impossible. My father would never." "Don't be so naive," Emily interrupted, her voice growing more intense. "Your father was in over his head. He was in the same business as your husband, deals, power, money. That mansion, that company, it wasn't just built on hard work. It was built on lies, Maggie. Built on a network of people that your father tried to shield you from. But it wasn't enough." I shook my head, feeling like I was suffocating under the weight of her words. "No, this isn't happening. I can't believe this." "Believe it," Emily said coldly. "You've been living in a fantasy. Your father, your husband, they were both part of something far darker than you ever realized. And you, Maggie, are the last piece of the puzzle." I took a step back, the room spinning as I tried to make sense of what she was saying. "What are you trying to say? That I'm somehow involved in this. That I. Emily nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing. Your father made sure you were kept in the dark for as long as possible. But now that he's gone, now that the company is falling apart, it's all coming back to you. You're the only one who can stop this from spiraling out of control. My heart pounded in my chest. I don't know what you want from me, Emily. But I've had enough. I'm going to take my son and get out of this mess. You're not going to drag me back in. She laughed, the sound hollow and bitter. It's already too late for that. Jason's already involved. He just doesn't know it yet. And once he finds out the truth, there's no going back. I swallowed hard. Jason. My son. The one thing I had been trying to protect all along. He was right in the middle of this, whether he knew it or not. And now, it seemed like Emily was telling me that he was just as trapped as I was. Tell me the truth, I demanded, my voice shaky but determined. What is Jason really involved in? What's going to happen to him? Emily's smile faded, and she took a deep breath, her expression serious for the first time. I'm not the one you need to worry about, Maggie. The people your husband was dealing with, they're not just going to let this go. They'll come for all of you if they think there's even a chance that the truth gets out. And you, Maggie, you'll be the one they go after first. I felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath me. They're coming for us. Why are you telling me this? I whispered, the weight of her words sinking in. Because I'm done running. I've played my part, and now it's your turn to make things right. She stepped closer, her face hardening. But you can't do it alone. You need help. You need me. I recoiled. No, Emily. I don't need anything from you. You've already taken everything I care about. She didn't back down. You need the truth, Maggie. And the truth is, we're all tangled in this together. Whether you like it or not, we're in this mess, and if we don't fix it soon, it will destroy us all. Her words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. As much as I hated to admit it, I knew she was right. As I stood there trying to process everything, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Jason's name on the screen. It was an unknown number. I hesitated before answering. What now? Wow, what a ride, right? If you're hooked on Maggie's journey, with all the twists and turns, you don't want to miss what's coming next. The danger is escalating, and the truth is coming out faster than Maggie and Jason can handle. What will happen when the past catches up with them? Will they survive the web of lies and betrayal? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with the next chapter. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this one ends. Stay tuned for the next part of this gripping story, because the real secrets are only just beginning to unfold. I stared at the phone for a long moment before swiping the screen to answer. My pulse quickened as I brought the phone to my ear. What could this new call possibly bring? After everything Emily had just told me, my nerves were on edge, and I had no idea who could be on the other end of this line. Hello, I said, my voice betraying the anxiety I was feeling. A sharp, clipped voice came through, making me stiffen immediately. Maggie Connor. I nodded instinctively, even though I knew they couldn't see me. Yes, this is Maggie. Who is this? The voice on the other end didn't hesitate. This is Detective Anderson from the Kansas City Police Department. We need to talk. I'm afraid we have some urgent matters to discuss, and your name has come up in an ongoing investigation. I froze, my heart hammering in my chest. An investigation. What had happened? Was this related to the business, to everything Emily had just told me? Was Jason involved? Detective, I'm not sure what this is about, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But if this is about my family's business, It's about more than just the business, Mrs. Connor, the detective interrupted, his voice now colder. It's about your husband's connections to a very dangerous group of people, and it's time you knew what's been happening behind closed doors. I felt my stomach twist. What connections? The blood drained from my face. I had always suspected there were things my husband hadn't been honest about, but this was something else entirely. I don't understand, I said, my voice trembling. What do you mean by dangerous people? My husband isn't involved in anything criminal. He's a businessman, a respectable one. The detective sighed, as though I were missing something obvious. With all due respect, Mrs. Connor, I'm afraid you're very mistaken. Your husband has been connected to a series of illegal transactions, money laundering, arms dealing, and several other criminal activities. And your son, Jason, he's been caught in the crossfire. We have reason to believe he's been unknowingly involved in some of these operations. We need you to help us get him out of this mess before it escalates. I stumbled backward, my hand clutching the phone tighter as if it could hold me upright. Jason. My son was involved. How? Why hadn't I seen it sooner? Had he known what was happening? Had he been kept in the dark like me? Detective, I began, my voice barely a whisper. My son doesn't know any of this. He can't be involved. I need to speak to him. What do you need me to do? Right now, we need you to keep him calm, Mrs. Connor. We're monitoring his phone and activities, but we believe that someone is planning to make a move against him soon. You need to protect him. We don't have much time. My head was spinning. I barely registered the rest of the conversation as the words dangerous group, and we need you to help echoed in my mind. The weight of it all. Jason, my husband's secrets, the truth about my father's business. It felt like I was suffocating. The call ended abruptly, and I sat there motionless. I didn't know what to do. What could I do? The detective had given me no clear instructions, no way out. And Emily's words were still echoing in my head. We're all tangled in this together. I could feel it now. This wasn't just about a betrayal anymore. This wasn't just about my husband's infidelity or even the twisted web Emily had spun. No, this was something much bigger. This was about power. This was about survival. And if I didn't act, my son, the only person left I had in this world, would pay the price. I grabbed my keys and rushed out the door, Emily's shadow still lingering behind me. She hadn't left, and I knew she wouldn't until she got what she wanted. But right now, I didn't have time to deal with her. I drove to Jason's apartment, my mind spinning faster than the wheels of the car beneath me. What would I say to him? How could I protect him from the truth? When I reached his apartment, I found him standing outside, pacing back and forth. The moment he saw me, his face went pale. His eyes were wide, as if he knew I had learned something that was about to change everything. "Mom," he said, his voice shaking. "I don't know what's going on. I don't know who to trust anymore." I stepped forward, reaching for him. "Jason, I need you to listen to me. The police called. They said you've been involved in something far more dangerous than we ever realized." His face twisted with confusion and fear. "What do you mean, Mom? What's happening? I don't understand." I took a deep breath. "You're being targeted, Jason. And your father, he's been involved in criminal activities. Money laundering, arms dealing. There's so much we don't know. But the police..." I stopped myself. I couldn't let him know everything at once. I had to protect him. "They're watching you. You're in danger." Jason stepped back, his face pale. "Danger? What are you talking about? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I didn't know. I didn't want to drag you into this," I said quickly. "But now we have to act. You need to be careful. They think you're involved in this mess, and they'll stop at nothing to make sure you stay quiet." Jason's face hardened as he processed my words. "I need to fix this, Mom. I can't just sit back and let this happen to me. I'll make things right." I shook my head, grabbing his shoulders. "No, Jason. You need to stay away from this. Let the police handle it. Trust them." He nodded, though the confusion in his eyes was still there. "What about Dad? What does he know about this?" I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. "I'll explain everything later. But right now you need to trust me. Stay out of this, Jason. Stay away from the people who are trying to destroy us." As I looked over Jason's shoulder, I saw a black SUV slowly drive past, its tinted windows giving no indication of who was inside. My stomach dropped. I had a feeling they were watching us. The black SUV continued down the street, its presence sending a chill through me. I watched it disappear around the corner, my pulse racing. Who were they? Were they the same people Emily had warned me about? The ones my husband had gotten involved with? I turned back to Jason, trying to steady my breathing. "We need to go now," I said urgently, my voice low but firm. "They're watching us. We have to get out of here." Jason's eyes flickered with a mixture of confusion and fear. "Mom, who's watching us? What's going on?" I grabbed his arm and pulled him toward my car. "There's no time to explain. Trust me, Jason. We have to move." He didn't argue, his steps quick as he followed me to the car. I started the engine, my hands shaking as I gripped the wheel. I had no clear plan, no idea where we were headed, but I knew we couldn't stay here. Not with the people who were after us, potentially just around the corner. As I drove, the silence in the car was suffocating. Jason kept looking over at me, his face pale with worry, but I couldn't bring myself to meet his gaze. What was there to say? How could I explain everything to him? My mind was spinning with the knowledge that we were running out of time. Suddenly Jason spoke. "Mom, what did you mean when you said Dad was involved? In what? What's really happening?" I glanced over at him briefly before focusing back on the road. The words were so heavy I could hardly breathe. But I had no choice. It was time to tell him everything. "I didn't want you to know," I began, my voice tight. "But your father wasn't the man I thought he was. He was involved in criminal activity, Jason. He wasn't just running a business. He was part of something dangerous, something illegal. And now you've been dragged into it, whether you know it or not." Jason's breath caught, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What? Well, that can't be true. You're saying Dad was part of something illegal?" I nodded, feeling the weight of the truth press on me. "Yes, Jason. Money laundering, arms dealing, things I never imagined. I found out after your father passed away. I thought it was over, but now I know that it wasn't. It's bigger than we ever realized." Jason was silent for a moment, processing the words. His knuckles were white as he gripped the seat. "I don't get it. I thought Dad was just a businessman. He was respected by everyone. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you protect me?" I glanced over at him, guilt filling my chest. "I tried to protect you, Jason. But I didn't know how deep it went. And I never wanted to pull you into it. I thought it was over when your father died, but I was wrong. This isn't just about your father anymore. It's about you. And it's about what they'll do to keep their secrets safe." Jason's jaw tightened, his gaze focused on the road ahead, but his mind was far from it. "Who are these people, Mom? What do they want from us?" I could feel my breath catch in my throat as I tried to hold back the overwhelming panic rising inside me. "They want to keep the business running. They want control. And they'll stop at nothing to make sure no one knows the truth. Including you, Jason." The weight of his silence was suffocating. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the mix of anger and fear. "So what now? What do we do?" I didn't have an answer for him. The truth was, I didn't know what to do next. I only knew one thing: we couldn't go back. And I couldn't let them hurt him. As I turned onto a side street, I spotted something that made my heart drop into my stomach. The black SUV. It was parked on the corner just down the street. The windows were tinted, but I knew they were watching us. My blood ran cold. "They're following us," Jason whispered, his voice hoarse. I nodded, trying to remain calm despite the panic surging through me. "We can't stay here. We need to get to a safe place, somewhere they can't find us." Jason's eyes darted around, trying to make sense of everything. "Where do we go? Who can we trust now?" I didn't answer immediately. We had no one left to trust. The police, Emily, even my own husband. Everyone had betrayed us in some way. I had to protect Jason. I had to protect us. "I don't know," I said finally, my voice shaky. "But I'll keep you safe, Jason. Promise. We'll figure this out." Just as I said that, The SUV slowly pulled away, following us at a distance. They weren't trying to be subtle anymore. They were coming for us. I pressed the gas pedal harder, my mind racing. I had to get us out of this. The only thing I knew for sure was that I couldn't go back. No matter what happened, I wasn't going to let Jason fall into their hands. As I sped down the street, Jason's hand gripped mine, the only sign that we were in this together. But even as we drove, even as I tried to think of our next move, one question gnawed at me. How much longer before they caught up with us? The car's headlights reflected off a pair of mirrors ahead of us, and I could see the silhouette of a man standing at the corner. He was waiting for us,